Welcome back, players. I'm Jack with 36 Cancel, and this is Coco the Weiss Cat. And this is our channel's first deck tech video. We'll be briefly going over a deck's composition, analyzing its strengths and weaknesses, and then giving it a few scores based on these categories: skill, consistency, and power. This is based on what's currently going on in the English meta. It'll be full of anecdotal strategy and conclusions based on limited tournament results, and personal experience mixed in together, so it's by no means an official review. I mean, it's really just me blowing hot air about Weiss, so that kind of thing is your ASMR. By all means, continue. So we've actually got two decks in front of us here. One is Accel World Set 1, and the other is Accel World Infinite Burst. And yes, they can be played together, but why would you? Accel World Set 1 is so awful it makes old Project Diva trial decks look like SAO meta with Last Shot Xenon. But is it really that bad? I mean, look at it. This is the deck's only real finisher. It's a restander that takes 5 stock to pull off its ability after paying the 2 it would cost to play it, and it needs a 2k1 climax to use. Because of the way the ability is written, there's no way to do it more than once per turn. And if you think you're going to get it off while using any other level 3s, like for example this Nico, which has a pay 3 to burn 1 ability, you're out of your mind. But I'm really not going to go into the tech for set 1. I keep it around for laughs and because no one in their right mind would take it off my hands if I paid them to. I've played it against joke decks with my friends on the regular, and I don't think it's ever won. I'll unreservedly say I think it's by far the worst set in English. And yes, worse than Log Horizon somehow. So that said, you would think that might speak badly for set 2, but the truth is that Infinite Burst packs a lot of punch. I think it's an awesome set for English. I don't think it'll be sweeping tournaments like Kantai or Sword Art, but I think we'll see it place at least. And in your local game shop, I'd be on the lookout for this flat-chested chubby chaser. So, what makes Infinite Burst tick? Well, the deck has a litany of options at any given time in the game. Even at level 0, Infinite Burst has cards that filter your hand at virtually no cost. That said, let's take a look at this deck's level 0 suite. So, there's a ton of hand control here, and it doesn't come at the price of power, like a lot of level 0 tools do. This Kuroyuki Hime accelerates at the beginning of your climax phase to tutor a yellow character from your deck when it attacks, and then pitch a card. It doesn't technically add cards to your hand, but it is a 2500 body on the field that can filter your hand, which is seriously nothing to sneeze at. This Nico can do it too, only at the small and insignificant cost of reversing his battle opponent. And with 2000 base power and conditional plus 1500, that won't be too hard. Salvage a character, then discard. No climax, no stock, no strings attached. On a level 0 common. Like, come on. Compare this Nico to any common from set 1. There's no contest. Most of the rare level 0s aren't that good. The only thing that might come close is this Kuroyuki Hime. She can get to 3500 power, but can she hand filter? I don't think so. And you know the best part? That hand filtering and reversing can interface with one of the most notable cards to come out of Infinite Burst, and that's this little unassuming level 0 here. She's a global 500 assist, but that's small potatoes compared to her other ability. When you accelerate, you can choose a character and give them this ability. On reverse, pay 1 and search. And that's whenever you accelerate. If you do it with 2 characters, that means you can give it to any 2, or give 2 instances of the ability to 1 character. That means, let's say you have this level 0 that accelerates and a level 1 on the field. When you accelerate, you can give that ability to this level 1, which is way more likely to reverse something. And just think of the possibilities. With this card, there's no need to discriminate who gets the ability. You can find easy targets and go for them. As a 3-of, we have this Runner Silver Crow. He's a Mikasa clone, and that card was never bad, so no need to go too much further into that. There's a Stock Bomb, self-explanatory, and a level 0 Akatsuki, which is also never bad. Then there's 2 Brainstormers, and they're both tap 2, pay 1. 1 salvages and 1 searches. I would call them average, but they're still way better than the Skyraker we got in set 1, and that's basically the level 0 toolbox. There are some other choices like this Suicide or Utai or 4K Climax tappers, but overall the level 0 game in Infinite Burst is nothing to sneeze at. It has a lot of free filtering and has tons of abilities that interact with the rest of the deck, and like we said before, that doesn't come at the expense of field presence. I give Infinite Burst level 0 an 8 out of 10. I don't say Accel World here because we don't want to talk about that other set. So we move on to the bread and butter, which is level 1, and there's no better place to start than these 2 cards right here. This Nico is a 1-0 that turns into a 6500 if you have this card on the field and 3 other dudes. She top checks when she comes in, and with no climax combo, she salvages on reverse. Just accelerate. Cool, huh? Now guess what? This Pato has the same ability as Kurioki Hime, but for salvaging. So when you accelerate, you can pay 1 and salvage 2 on the reverse. Or give that ability to another character. It's the same thing. Or if you have this Kurioki Hime and this Pato on the field, and you accelerate, the reward for reversing a character is salvaging 1, then paying 2 to search 1 and salvage 1. Jesus. And you can pick which one you want to use after the battle and after the trigger. That's the amazing part. You can dig out a climax from 2 or even 3 stock down from that. Or accelerate twice with a Pato and a Kuro in the back. That's 4 instances to hand out. See what happens here? Let's watch when this Nico reverses her opponent. Did you see that? Seems good, right? And if that wasn't enough, the other big level 1 player hero is this Kurioki Hime. She's just a 1-0 4500, but you can accelerate to give her plus 1000. On the turn she's played, she also gets 500 for each of their avatar net. So if you accelerate, she's a 1-0 7500 on her play turn. And by the way, accelerating gives you the Minaminita effect on reverse. Check top 4 and add a character to your hand. Salvaging and searching not enough for you? Try Minaminita. And again, without a climax combo. Options. Options everywhere. The other level 1 here is a 1-0 2k backup that can be searched and salvaged with any character in the deck. Seems alright. Why go on? The level 1 suite is nothing short of amazing. The combos and synergy are awesome. I give it a 9 out of 10. At level 2 there isn't too much. There's this Pato which gives level 3s in front of it 2000, which isn't bad. And she discard bonds for one of the deck's finishers, which is pretty good for an assister that you want anyway. And then there's this Utai which can bomb a back row character and then gets bigger. And to wrap it up, there's a 2-1 backup free fresh. Good to see, but personally I like the ones on bodies more because they enable early play. Really cool tech, but nothing too notable. I give it a 5 out of 10. So the tour de force of the deck is what we have left. And here we have 3 cards. The first one you'll see is this Nico. She's an early play with 2 or less climaxes, she heals, and she has a climax combo with this Gate. If you play it, you can salvage a character when she attacks, and then gain 1000 power. And if she reverses her opponent, she deck kicks. Seriously, what doesn't this card do, besides put you on a watch list? If this card wasn't so good, I wouldn't play it on principle of how butt ugly it is. But I guess my principles aren't that strong. So next we have this Scarlet Rain, which is 8500 base. That's kind of small, but she gets plus 1000 per level of the card facing her, so that's not the worst. When she attacks, you mill the top card, and if it's an avatar or net, you deal X, where X is level. So 50% of the time, X is going to be 0, but the big thing here is it's free, and it happens every time she attacks. I honestly would rather have a consistent burn 1, like other level 3s, but hey, this is an okay card. And finally, the cover girl for the set. Moneyuki Hime herself, Bond of the Accelerated World. She heals on play, and then she Musashi's. But it's only on cancel. It's linked to a climax combo that's a wind, but still, that's pretty interesting. But she gives the ability to herself and another character, along with a bit of power. So if you have 3 of these on the field to finish the game, each one will trigger with the climax, and you'll have 6 instances of the Musashi's cancel burn to hand out. That's a lot of free attacks, but keep in mind that a lot of it can still whiff anyway. To sum it up, I give this level 3 suite a 7 out of 10, because a lot of the finishing power is kind of left to chance. So let's look at the overall gameplay now. As a whole, it's pretty straightforward on the surface, but piloting it involves a lot of micromanaging. You can search out a ton of characters, but each time you do, you need to be sure that it's the right choice. It's easy to set yourself up for failure if you read the board wrong, and sometimes you'll find yourself in situations where there's no option available that really helps you out. At level 0, you open with a lot of power and hand filtering. This deck has a solid board presence that can stick around for multiple turns. And all said and done, with all the filtering you have, there's very little reason not to lay down an ideal game of level 1s. The only real downside is that a lot of your level 0 game is still vulnerable to 0 bombs, and it doesn't always have good ways to deal with runners or other techie cards. Ordinarily, that's not a huge deal, but some of the best level 0s on the field now are the kind of tech that this deck doesn't really have answers to. So after you duke it out at level 0, you enter your level 1, with one of the most option-rich toolboxes in any set. You get a lot of power on the turn you play some cards, and there's a lot of free boosts. They have a decent chance to reverse their opponents and get some awesome abilities off, and with the backups, you get a decent wall. Looking at the meta, the biggest problem for list level 1 is stuff like ODM and my Fate to Bear Aaron. I don't think this whole deck does amazing against Titan, but other than that, it's a solid game plan. You use your extensive search and deck control to roll into some consistent early play and salvage, and then with that and your discard bonder, you finish strong with a nice field of being that you don't need to spend a ton of stock to make the deck work. The only hang-up is if you don't get the right climaxes near the end of the game, you're pretty much SOL. If you've only seen one Nega Nebulous the whole game, I'd hold on to it. Each Money Yukihime gives an instance of Musashi to another character in itself, so that's 6 instances of Cancel Mill, if you close with 3 of them. That said, a majority of them, if they do trigger, will probably miss. Just doing some math, if you assume a rational distribution of cards, subtracting some level 3s and a climax because they'll be on the field, over half the cards you mill will be level 0 or climaxes, meaning you'll deal about the equivalent of 3 cards with Cancel Burn, if the ability triggers. And that finishing power is a little questionable, but still nothing to sneeze at. You can still get lucky and deal more damage than the simple burn 1 attack. So when you reach level 3 and your opponent is 3-0, there's a decent chance he's dead, but it's still a toss-up. So let's sum this up. Overall, the deck has a really awesome toolkit that gives you more options than most others. It sets you up for a really consistent game. But that said, after you set up, you don't really have the finishing or staying power that other decks might have. Your early plays can be small, and your finishers can have a questionable closing ability. You might find that the deck folds to more powerful level 3 games. So pressing the advantage before then could be really important, and hitting level 3 first might not do you too much good, to be honest. And that's a bit counterintuitive to the whole accelerate theme. I've seen some people pile with this deck and they get a little stuck going into level 3, and they're either unable to close out the game or keep themselves from dying from 2-5. But with time, that kind of thing will probably be ironed out. So let's rate it. For skill, this deck is definitely an 8. It's really easy to make bad decisions here that can set you up for bad turns, and since there are so many open-ended options, taking the wrong ones, like paying too much stock at level 1 for abilities, or searching the wrong characters can really kill you. Piloting this deck won't be easy. Controlling your damage and levels with all the accelerate abilities is also a huge factor. Clocking a climax on a risky call can be a game ender. I think it's a really tough deck to master, but you'll have a ton of fun doing it. Consistency? I think this is the biggest draw to the deck. It has limitless options to control the damage you're taking and what's in your hand, and that factors big time into the skill. But as for controlling your compression and character plays, I give this deck a 9. And now there's power, and I think this is kind of the downside. The level 1 wall isn't huge, and it doesn't have tech that shuts down your opponent's game plan. And the level 3, I think it's good, but not amazing. You might find yourself losing some level 1 exchanges at bad times, and if you're playing other popular decks, I think you'll be behind on finishing power. So on power, I give the deck a 6. But numbers aside, it's super fun to play. The abilities on the cards feel really busted when you use them, and the art is awesome. And like I said, I think you'll at least see it on leaderboards, which is more than I can say for some recent releases. It's won my locals a few times, and I have faith in it. So overall, it's a really satisfying deck to play, and it can really hone in your decision making. I'd give it a shot. As always, the deck list is in the description, and there are some tech options as well. Check them out, and talk about your take on the deck in the comments. How does your build differ? Why? Let's hash out this set. Well, at least before the next 5 Sword Art sets drop and everything else will be yesterday's news. Alright players, till next time, peace.